what's going on, everybody? This is John J Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the NCSL Dynasty here on NCAA 14, and also featuring that college football revamp as well. We are starting to get to that midway point in the season already, and we've had some exciting matchups, and we're looking for that to continue here today. We got 16 nationally televised games coming your direction shortly, and not only that, we may also have some studio updates and other notable box scores that are in definite need of your attention. So, hope you guys are excited for this episode, because I'll tell you what, I'm certainly am, man. So, hope you guys are excited for this video. If you are, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button, hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. But let's not waste any more time. Let's go jump on these football fields around the country to see what Week 6 officially has in store for us here today. Let's get it. So let's go ahead and get week number 6 of the NCSL officially underway. And we got a couple of rivalry games to get going here. And we have, first and foremost, we got that first leg of the Commanders-in-Chiefs Trophy. Air Force taking on Navy. And oh baby, Air Force is in desperate need of a win right now. Air Force coming in with one of the worst offenses in the country. In a year that we've seen more scoring than what we've seen in the first few years of the NCSL, that is a very deep problem to have. And it seems like Navy is also on the goal line looking to take the lead here in the Commanders-in-Chief Trophy, and we got it. Navy is going to take the lead early, but here comes the Air Force Falcons, and they're looking to soar here late in the first quarter of action. They'll have a red zone opportunity of their own here late in this first quarter. Third and long coming up as quarterback will drop back, look over the middle, and find somebody on the slants. Blake Washington will actually pick up the first down, and that will set up a goal line situation where a few plays later, third and goal is going to work out beautifully as Cameron McPherson will give Air Force the lead here in this critical rivalry matchup. It remains close all throughout the game, but in the fourth quarter, we have one of the biggest surprises, I think, of this NCSL season. Not only does Dion Kirby actually figure out how to get this offense to move down the field, but they finish drives as well. They're on the verge of a 30-burger, which is a massive surprise here in this NCSL series. They're on the verge of getting 30-plus points as they'll drop back to pass. No, it's going to be a run to the right-hand side where Ryan Vaughn finds the end zone. Touchdown, Falcons. So with that being said, the Falcons are looking very strong and on the verge of closing the deal. This would be a moderate upset unless Navy can pull something out of the hat, but it doesn't look like with less than 30 seconds left that's going to happen. Matter of fact, we have a running up of the score. Blake Washington scores in the final seconds of the game, and Air Force scores 24 in the fourth quarter to put the hated midshipmen away. So now we jump into one of the bigger rivalries in college football now. We have the Red River rivalry between Oklahoma and number 19 ranked Texas. Texas having a down year compared to what we've seen them do in years 2 and 3. Just being this close to a national championship last year, and now all of a sudden, if they lose this game, they might fall out of that top 25 completely. So, a critical game for the Longhorns here. Not to mention this is obviously a conference game, which has its own implications as well. But Texas is locked into a close one against Oklahoma. This is what we expected, but the defense makes some plays, and they will keep Jordan Mitchell from finding the end zone. He'll actually throw his second interception of the day. Coming into the second half, though, Oklahoma still only down by a couple of points, and Jerome Butler will end up finding the end zone. That's a touchdown for the Sooners of Oklahoma, as they have a 4-point lead now because of that. They did end up missing the extra point, but they go for 2, and the 2-point conversion is good. That puts them up 6. So Texas, even though they might score here, they probably will, Now that they got it inside the 5-yard line, they'll need to hit the field goal, the extra point attempt, which this kicker has missed an extra point in this game. So certainly not guaranteed by any stretch of the imagination. However, he will go on and hit the extra point. So Texas is back up, but Jordan Mitchell leads them right back down the field and finds Josh Daniels on the crosser. And Oklahoma will now have the lead again. But they'll go for the 2-point conversion, trying to punch it in, and Oklahoma is successful. We're going to be in for a pretty exciting finish here in this Red River rivalry. So here we are in the fourth quarter, a one-possession game separating these two teams. But Jordan Mitchell could possibly slam the door, runs it up the gut with Jerome Butler, and it could very well be over. But this might slam the door. Ultimately, Texas going for it on a 4th and 1. They had to put the ball on the ground. They failed the 4th down conversion. And we might be seeing a world where Texas is outside the top 25. But we have far more games coming up featuring multiple ranked teams. Number 5, Army, getting a chance to see them here in the regular season. But we'll check in first and foremost on San Jose State going on the road to take on the Tigers of LSU. LSU coming in ranked number 12 in the country. The LSU Tigers are getting ready to line it up as they have a red zone opportunity late in the first quarter, which they will cash in as Aaron Gunn finds the end zone. But not too long after, San Jose State keeps in this game, and they have a chance to actually tie this ball game up. A very intriguing drive coming for the Spartans. So here we go. 3rd and short coming up. They're going to throw over the middle and finds Ryan Stover for the first down. And that will set up a goal line opportunity. 1st and goal, but they did have a false start, so that's why they're deep in their own territory as Jerron Merrick is going to get sacked in the backfield. And it's going to be a much tougher goal line conversion. But Merlock, he's going to find the receiver, Brad Wesley, in the back of the end zone. What a dot by Jerron Merrick. And we have ourselves a tied ball game. LSU, consider yourselves on upset alert officially. But Derek Brown is looking to change that, looking to give the LSU Tigers that lead once again. And if anything, LSU, they're willing to run that ball down your throat. They already have 100 rushing yards, and we still have a whole half of football to play after this. Brown using those legs one more time, but he can't get it into the end zone. He will pick up a first down, but it doesn't add on to the scoreboard, at least not yet. Derek Brown going to line up in the pistol and hand it off to the tailback. An easy score for Mark Palmer. He doesn't get touched until well after he crosses the plane. Could be considered that good old-fashioned late hit, unsportsmanlike penalty. It doesn't get called an NCAA 14, but, you know, it is what it is. So now let's go ahead and jump into the second half. And the second half ends up being pretty field goal filled second half. We don't really see too much scoring in the second half. Both teams just kind of out here trading field goals at this point. And it leads to this fourth quarter. San Jose State trying to get back into this game. Quarterback is going to make a real nice run to the outside. Okay, I see you, 10. I was not familiar with your game. However, his game will not be enough, as San Jose State will fall short, falling by just a few points. Meanwhile, Southern Miss goes on the road to take on the Crimson Tide of Alabama. Alabama with a slow start to the year, only 2-2, but it's not because of the defense, though. They got some playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. Jamal Perkins, a true freshman, mind you, is certainly one of those guys. Really, the problem for Alabama this year is their offense. Their offense has been very below average and definitely below the standard of what you would see from an Alabama football team. So, Alabama trying to finally find the scoreboard, and they're still going to have to wait. They're still going to have to wait even longer as Matt Burchard throws a timely interception in the end zone. You hate to see it, and Southern Miss will turn around and turn a field goal out of that. Not a prettiest field goal by any means, but it is going to be a field goal for the Golden Eagles. So halftime comes around. Alabama is still down. They only get a field goal to this point, but Matt Bouchard finds Clinton Lake, and Clinton Lake goes absolutely nowhere. Just a very low-scoring game here in Tuscaloosa. So here we are with a 2nd and 15, trying to make something shake, and Matt Bouchard will pick up those yards back and then some. Make this a little bit easier of a 3rd down to get. They can pick up this 1st down without finding the end zone, but it's going to be very close though. Bouchard finds his man in the end zone. Ernest Concepcion. Touchdown, Alabama. And the Crimson Tide finally figure out how to put points on the scoreboard. We'll see if it ends up being enough or not. But needless to say, it's been a very low-scoring game. And in the 4th quarter, those offensive lack of fertility still continues, but the Crimson Tide, they will do enough to win. They win 16-10, but Alabama, certainly not the same team we're used to watching. So that being said, Rutgers goes on the road and takes on number 5 Army, and Rutgers is looking for a big-time upset of their own. They're off to a strong start here in Michie Stadium as they drive all the way into the goal line on their very first possession of the game. We're going to finish the drive off. It's going to be their quarterback, Fred Lester, who is going to break a tackle, and Rutgers finds the end zone. Touchdown, Scarlet Knights. So Rutgers is up 7-0, and that lead will continue to grow. And while Army has been very good in simulation, they haven't really been the same team in gameplay. They're really the opposite of Memphis. Memphis plays a lot better in gameplay than they do in simulation. Army is the exact opposite. And I think we're seeing that unfold in real time right now as Victor Hairston finally breaks the goose egg for the Black Knights, as Hairston will get his 5th rushing touchdown of the year. However, Rutgers is not going to relent anytime soon, as on his very next possession, they're able to drive all the way down to get a field goal. Could be one of those games where Rutgers completely runs away with it. We'll see Rutgers again with a red zone opportunity as they have a 1st and 10 inside the 20. Lester trying to throw over the middle, had a man open. He had a step. He really did have a step, but Fred Lester did not lead him downfield enough. Army gets a long touchdown drive after that. And so the Black Knights, they're working their way back into this game. They're not in a spot where they're leading, but Army is back in it. So maybe they can come back here in the second half in order to avoid the upset. Rutgers, meanwhile, a 2-2 squad. I mean, they're just holding on for dear life right now. They're just trying to survive this second half, as Rutgers not the same team in the first half. They had to settle for field goals a little bit more than what they had to do in the second half of action. They're still holding Army out of the end zone, though, which is extremely important. So Army, they're still sticking with that triple option. It's a military academy, so I don't think anyone is truly surprised by this, as Army looking to get across the 15-yard line and going to hand it off to the fullback, and actually takes a couple of defenders for a ride. Army will be set up with a goal line opportunity. This would help it cut within one possession, and sure enough, Matthew Russell is going to get Army into the end zone. Touchdown, Black Knights. But hold up, wait a minute. They're going for 2, trying to run the option again, and this time Rutgers was ready for it. That's as close as Army is going to get, and number 5 is actually going to go down. Meanwhile, we have a bunch of more games happening around the country. One of them being the number 1 team in America, the Michigan Wolverines. Plus, we have one of our only top 25 matchups in this episode. Number 11 Minnesota taking on number 9 Nebraska. So that's going to be waiting for later. But first, we will check in down in sunny Miami, Florida, And the Miami Hurricanes, they are hosting a fellow SEC conference opponent in the Georgia State Panthers, led by their offensive coordinator, former Georgia Southern running back Josephine Krakowski. He's looking to get Georgia State a big-time upset, but it's hard to do that when Miami is constantly running the ball right down your throat. It seems like that's been a big problem here in this first half, as the quarterback, Rodney Walker, he's going to have himself yet another rushing touchdown, and Miami just running all over Georgia State right now. Looks like it might be one of those games that might not necessarily be that close at all, as it seems that the Miami Hurricanes, they are poised to find the end zone yet again. And sure enough, their running back, Sean Campbell, the backup, mind you, the backup running back just did that. Miami's going to score in the end zone. Touchdown Hurricanes. And it's truly not looking good for Georgia State right now. Georgia State, forget about winning this game for a quick second. You're just trying to do all that you can just to not get blown out of the building. And this is shortly after Georgia State put up a really good fight against Georgia. They didn't win the game against Georgia, but they did put up a very good fight against the Georgia Bulldogs, who are roughly the same caliber of team, right? But Georgia State does find the end zone late in the third quarter. They even go for two, and their quarterback is going to even get the 2-point conversion. We're also blessed with a studio update with USF beating Arkansas State. So Miami does have a 34-18 lead, but here we are, just 2 minutes left in the game, and Caleb Kirk is out here really trying to boost his stats up. He really wants to get that Heisman Trophy this year, finished up as a finalist in his last year as a true freshman. And sure enough, Caleb Kirk will find the end zone as well. That would be the only touchdown that he scores on the day. Miami will end up winning 41-18, a convincing win for the Hurricanes. That being said, we now make the trip up to South Bend, Indiana to check in on number 18 Notre Dame. They're taking on Western Kentucky. The Hilltoppers having a very good season last year, but it's clear that Western Kentucky, well, this is not that year 3 team. This is year 4 squad, is really not the same team. And Notre Dame looks like they shouldn't have too many problems with them, but towards the end of the first half, we do start to see Western Kentucky kind of start that process of trying to claw back into the game, right? But fourth quarter, Notre Dame has the ball in the red zone. Quarterback does a little bit of a stop step for a quick second as Chad Brown picks up 9. As Notre Dame looks to put the nail in the coffin, going to run it up the gut. And Ben Bentley finds the end zone. Touchdown, Fighting Irish. The Fighting Irish seem poised to win their second game of the season. But hold up now. Wait a minute. Here comes the Hilltoppers in the fourth quarter. Stephon Williams finds the end zone for the Hilltoppers there. And then after Notre Dame has to punt the ball away, Western Kentucky drives down the field again a few minutes later. And if they can get a touchdown here, suddenly it's just a one-possession game. Goal line opportunity coming up. It's going to be Williams running up the right-hand side again, and he'll score yet again. The Hilltoppers, they just need this onside kick, and things could get very spicy very quickly. And that was actually not a bad onside kick at all. Had the bounce, but very good job by the hands team being able to field that particular kick. And now all Notre Dame really needs to do is run out this clock, keep the ball on the ground, and they should be fine. But I think Notre Dame might want a little bit more than that, because they're going to run up the gut with Ben Bentley. It's going to set up a goal line situation. So I'm very interested to see how aggressive they're going to be here. And sure enough, they're going to go for this. This is a bold strategy, Conan, but look at the running by Ben Bentley. Good word. He refused to go down, and it showed on the scoreboard. 6 more points for Notre Dame. They even go for the 2-point conversion and succeed there too. So Notre Dame does hang on and win 38-24. They secure their second victory of the season. That being said, let's go check in on those Cardiac Cats. Taking on the number 1 team in all of college football right now. They are taking on those Michigan Wolverines. Michigan looking to continue its unbeaten streak, but Cincinnati is a feisty team. Cincinnati has always seemed like to be one of those teams that's a feisty team. It always sets the record straight that they're better than what their record shows, right? You aren't always what your record says you are, right? It's not always like that in this beautiful land of college football, because here we are in the second quarter, and Cincinnati has a chance to take the lead here, and sure enough they do. What a dot to Eric Thomas. Touchdown Bearcats, and Cincinnati is in the lead against the number 1 team in America. Less than 2 minutes left to play here in the first half, though, as Junior Blaylock is going to go ahead and scramble. Takes a big hit, but he will bounce right back up. He's an extraordinarily tough kid, though. Drive will continue for the Wolverines. They still only have 1 timeout to work with, but Blaylock throws a dot over to the corner and dumps Michigan inside the 5-yard line. Nice catch there by TJ Graham. And then on the very next play, Jason Sims gets in practically untouched until it didn't matter. So the Wolverines will take a lead into halftime. And the thing about Michigan is that they actually deferred to the second half, so they had a chance to double dip. And the double dip actually is successful. But give credit to this Bearcats team. They are hanging around. They are certainly not going to give up. They're still in this ball game going into the fourth quarter. It's not over yet, and a lot of people are sleeping on this Bearcats team. Bare minimum, Cincinnati is at least going to cover here, as we do see a reception for Antonio Martinez, one of your guys' customs that actually plays tight end for Cincinnati Bearcats. But let's see if they can find a little bit more magic here. They got the touchdown. Can they get the 2-point conversion? Blitz comes quickly, and Michigan responds. Keeps Cincinnati out of the end zone, and Michigan will just barely survive. The Wolverines win by just a couple of points. So now Ohio State looks to erase some demons here real fast, as Ohio State is now taking on Purdue. Tough loss last week to Wisconsin that saw the Ohio State Buckeyes fall out of the top 10. They still are ranked in this top 25. We'll see if they can turn it around here in this game against Purdue. And that's a nice start. Opening drive for Ohio State, find the end zone. So maybe exercising some demons there right from the get-go. And you think this team is a little bit pissed off? I think by the way that they're playing here today, they are definitely playing as a pissed off football team. Mark Baker's going to get his first reception of the game as Ohio State is driving yet again, looking for a second touchdown in 2 drives. Looking, Hicks over the middle. It's going to find Anton Samuel for the end zone. And that is the first career touchdown reception for the young man. So nice job by Anton Samuel getting open there, and it just becomes a rout after that. Ohio State will go on and put up 70 against Purdue. It was never a contest to begin with, it seems like. But now we check in on the biggest game of week number 6. Somehow isn't a college game day worthy game, at least for NCAA 14. I was actually really surprised by this, but you know, it is what it is. Big implications here, particularly in the Frontier. The Frontier division, right now you see those standings on screen. Nebraska playing their conference opener, though, as they'll start off by throwing over the middle to Blake Thomas, and Brian Robinson will get the scoring started here for the Cornhuskers. They're going to take a quick 7-0 lead, and these two teams, they both have very dynamic offenses, so we could be in for a very high-scoring game. We'll see if Minnesota can answer the bell, though, as Lou Harrison runs the speed option. Dangerous pitch to Daniel Parker, but still gets through somehow. So a tie ball game awaits us, but not the high-scoring game that I thought it was going to be. I thought we were going to see a lot more scoring. That could change on a dime though, and that certainly is the case with Blake Thomas continuing to expose that Minnesota secondary. It does have to lead to a field goal though, as the drive does stutter after that, but a good throw to Blake Thomas nonetheless. It does give Nebraska the lead, and that's very important because this ended up being a very low-scoring game, much more low-scoring than I thought it was going to be. I thought this game could have been in the 60s, maybe even in the 70s, but man, I was wrong. This has really turned into almost a homage to old Big Ten West football, but Nebraska does come out on top, winning 20-10, and the Cornhuskers are going to win this battle of the unbeatens. So many more games happening around the country. We saw number 1. Let's check in on number 2 and number 3. Both those teams are going to be playing. First, we go up to Baltimore, Maryland, where we check in on the Maryland Terps taking on Florida State. The Seminoles will get to remain unbeaten here in this old ACC conference matchup. They're now in different conferences. Florida State is down by the goal line. Doan's looking to try to get the pitch out to their fullback, Aaron Dodd, who happens to be in the right place in the right time. Florida State finds the end zone because of that. And now Maryland trying to answer back here in this second quarter. And they will, courtesy of Jackson Durant. The Custom will get his first touchdown pass of his career. Thomas Moore able to throw it to him right on the money. So Maryland finds themselves back into the game. But Florida State trying to put together yet another drive. Michael Tremaine's going to make a nice catch there. He has almost 50 yards receiving here in the first half. We'll see if they go back to Michael Tremaine as they're in the 5-wide set. It's going to be a throw to the corner of the end zone, though, to Travis Beach. That's the tailback, able to make that kind of catch out of the backfield. Really, just a Moss moment there. But then after that, the scoring essentially stops. And that last field goal we saw from Maryland, that's the last points that we see in regulation. So, going to overtime, Florida State had to settle for a field goal. So, Maryland, all they had to do was get a touchdown to win, but they can't do it. They cannot get the field goal. So, Terps have to settle for one as well. We're going to have a second overtime now. In the second overtime, we're here, a chance to see Maryland again take a brief lead. Again, despite essentially starting in the red zone, haven't really done much, but that field goal is going to be off target. So now all Florida State's got to do is score on this drive, and it's going to be a dub. But wait a minute now, they get too aggressive. Maryland gets an interception, and the game is going to continue. We're now going to a third overtime. And at this point, if we do end up seeing a touchdown happen, we got to go for the 2-point conversion. Looking over the middle, it's going to be the tailback, Travis Beach, who finds the end zone. Touchdown, Seminoles. And now they'll go for the 2-point conversion. This will make it 28-20. Aaron Dodd with the carry and runs it right through. 2-point conversion is good. And now Maryland got a big, really big drive on their hands. For a lack of a better term. They got to punch it in or it's going to be over. Maryland is going to run it in themselves and scores. Thomas Moore with the touchdown. And now it's their turn to try for the 2-point conversion. This is a go to a fourth overtime, and it's good! We're now going to go to a fourth overtime. Let's see what this fourth overtime has in store. Florida State with a chance to throw over the middle, and what a grab by Ty Gold. Touchdown, Seminoles! So let's see what Florida State is about to do. And I think they're about to go and win this game. Florida State wins in quadruple overtime. An exciter in overtime. But now let's go out to Neyland Stadium, where we see number 17 Florida taking on an unranked Tennessee team that honestly has been pretty disappointing. This was a Tennessee team that, made it to the college football playoff last year. And they were one of the better teams that were in that college football playoff. But here they are in year number 4. If they lose this game, they're going to fall to below 500. Suddenly, you wonder if Tennessee can do enough to get to a bowl game. So I think they still have to play Notre Dame as well. Northern Illinois is a much better team as well. This is not going to be an easy conference slate for Tennessee, so they got to take advantage when they're outside of conference play. And right now, it seems like they're doing that. They have the lead against Florida, but Florida is going to continue to work and chip away, and really they field goal their way back into this, and they eventually take a 9-point lead into halftime. Tennessee, after the first drive, really cannot do much of anything. Meanwhile, here in the third quarter, Tennessee does have a chance to take the lead with 2 minutes left to play. Landrum looks over the middle and finds his receiver. Tim Landrum's going to have his second passing touchdown of the night. And so going into the fourth quarter, they have a lead over number 17 ranked Gators. Octavian Cater has the ball in his hand, and he's looking to lead Florida to victory. 4-2 record on the line as they're going to run it up the gut with their fullback, Nate Perry. A lot of love for the fullbacks here in this one, as we've seen multiple big boy touchdowns here in this game. They go for 2, and Octavian Cater, he's going to throw the ball into the end zone. The 2-point conversion is good, but there's a flag on the play. It's offensive pass interference, so the 2-point conversion actually ends up being nullified. We'll see if it hurts them down the road, as this could have big implications down the line. Tennessee down by 8 instead of 9, so Tennessee does have a chance to send this game out into overtime as well, but very limited time left on the clock. They only have 30 seconds to drive down the length of the field. Tim Landrum is going to get in under shotgun. He's going to snap the ball relatively quickly. Landrum throws over to the right-hand side, and Jordan Houston gets out of bounds. He gets out of bounds. It will help set up a Hail Mary opportunity. This is to try to send it to overtime. No! It's going to be intercepted, and Florida is going to survive. I don't know why he's not going down right away. The game has been won, but Florida is going to just barely, and I mean barely, survive. Florida wins. So, that being said, let's now go check in on number 2 team in the nation, USC. See if they can avoid some of the upset traps that some of these other top 5 teams had to deal with. I mean, we saw Army lose straight up. Michigan was actually in a fight for their lines. Florida State went to overtime. It's really been a tough week for top 5 teams. At least a week where the top 5 teams, the alleged best teams in the country, well, they haven't played like top 5 teams. We'll see if USC can break that trend. Taking on a decent Nevada squad, though, as USC is ready to go to work here in the second quarter. We're going to build upon this lead that they already have, as Victor Spence is going to find the end zone. That is going to be a touchdown for your Trojans, as they'll take a 14-0 lead. Meanwhile, the Wolfpack, late in the second quarter, are finally going to get themselves here on the scoreboard so that they won't get shut out here in this first half. But that's really all the positives that really you could say about Nevada in this game, because really there wasn't very many positives for Nevada in this ball game, as USC looks like they are just completely overwhelming Nevada right now. We're going to get close to the 40-burger with this touchdown throw, and gets it. Brian Jennings finds the end zone yet again, and USC dominates this Nevada Wolfpack squad here. So we now check in on some ACC conference action, and NC State quietly having themselves a strong start to the season. Actually, they're 3-1 going into this ball game, but they're going to face some adversity here, taking some adversity against Wake Forest here in conference action. The ACC, always an interesting conference to watch. Seems like the ACC seems to be one of those more open conferences. You know, I like to think they're like the Mountain West of the East Coast, right? That's really what I think of when I see this conference in action, because you really never know what you are going to get, right? You really don't know what kind of action you're going to have, but Lake Forest is going to get a good win here. They're going to beat North Carolina State 34-21 as Lake Forest found it got to go in the second half. So we do have some studio updates for once, as how about Arizona State? They pull a big upset off as well. They take down Washington 45-35. Big time win for the Sun Devils, and there's more results pouring in. San Diego State is able to beat Stanford 28-21. Not a bad win for the Aztecs at all, but more comes in meanwhile. TCU going to remain undefeated. They had a close game against Texas A&M, and Texas A&M could not pull the upset off. TCU remains unbeaten. We should see them in the top 15, but look over on that left-hand side. UTSA with a shocker. They're able to pull it off against number 21 Clemson. That really is going to get it going. And then Hawaii, the Rainbow Warriors, man, a slept-on team here in the NCSL. They're now going to be 5-0. They're going to be 5-0 as they are able to beat Washington State 28-0. That will end up being your final score. So we now have just a couple more games left of gameplay, as we got the thumbnail matchup. Number 7, Georgia, taking on South Carolina. This is actually where College Game Day ended up going. So we'll see if South Carolina can do what that title says and actually pull off some of the miracles that we have already seen. Multiple top 10 teams have gone down, of course. However, Georgia is looking to prevent that. As first drive of the game, it shows that, you know, this Georgia Bulldogs team, they might be meaning business, as Frederick Moeller, you are not real right now. You are absolutely not real by any means. And because of that, Georgia has a 7-0 lead. But South Carolina, listen, South Carolina has had a rough go the last few years. This is their third head coach in 3 years. So obviously a lot of turnover on this roster, but maybe South Carolina might be realizing they might have their guy here. Even though it's been an ugly year number 4, this team is continuing the fight. That's when you know you got a head coach that you got to stick with after 1 year. When a team that is definitely an underdog, and South Carolina is 100% an underdog in this game, they are coming out and fighting hard still. However, will that be enough to take down Georgia, as it seems that Georgia, they just have far more talent on this roster, man. So it's going to be a big mountain to climb if South Carolina actually wants to pull this off. And I don't know if South Carolina's got it. Moe's going to drop back. He's going to roll out to the left, and he's going to quickly find Antonio Paris in the end zone. Touchdown, Georgia. And the Bulldogs will take a 21-7 lead, and that could continue to grow. That is truly possible to see, as Elliott Hartman gives Georgia the first down there. However, Moeller drops back, looks over the middle, and finds Tim Green. That will bring him to, looks like, about the 1-yard line. We'll see what they decide to do. Could be an Elliott Hartman run here, and yes, it is. Elliott Hartman does run the ball up the gut. Georgia expands their lead, and they'll actually chip on a field goal as well to add a little bit of insult to injury there. Georgia's going to make it 31-7. So here we are in the third quarter. We'll see if South Carolina can stem the tide, or is it going to be much of the same here in this second half, as Georgia has yet another red zone opportunity, as we'll see Moeller drop back, quickly hook over the middle, and find the tight end in Tim Green for another touchdown. Certainly, Georgia is going to win big here, 52-14. That miracle was not there, but maybe a different story could be painted for Cal. And listen, We talked about how Cal is one of the most disappointing teams in college football. Preseason ranked, I believe, in the top 10. And yeah, here we are, 1-5. It's been nothing short of ugly for the University of California. It's not going to get easier. They're taking on number 6 UCLA. UCLA, of course, just coming off of winning the national championship. So Cal got its work to do. They got to learn actually how to put this ball in the end zone. We'll see if Cal can do it. And oh my gosh, they actually did it. They actually put the ball in the end zone. Imagine that. They actually do it another time here. And Cal, they're going to do it? They're going to beat UCLA? Yes, they are. They're going to take down number 6 UCLA 17-7. The upsets are not stopping. So we take some time to look at some other box scores around the country, and damn, I was recognizing of your game, Troy. Troy blowing out Mississippi State 62-24. The Troy Trojans, they might be for real in the Sun Belt. That would truly be something else. And then the same could also be said for Northern Illinois. They continue to dominate their schedule. They beat Vanderbilt 52-24. And finally getting some respect, Northern Illinois is going to be ranked in the top 25. As for the Wisconsin Badgers, Wisconsin is partying up in Madison right now. They win a shootout against Kansas State 49-32. The Wisconsin Badgers are still undefeated on the season as well. Meanwhile, West Virginia makes its case to be ranked in the top 25 eventually. A strong 5-1 record for the Mountaineers, and that's echoed by a 52-7 blowout of Mid-Tennessee State. As for the Razorbacks of Arkansas, they are now 5-0 in the Sun Belt Conference, hanging on to that top 25 spot for now as they beat the Raging Cajuns 24-13. As for Ole Miss, the Ole Miss Rebels, they are looking to get back into the top 10 soon. This could help them, a 49-24 win over South Alabama, as the Rebels are 4-1 now in Sun Belt Conference play. As for the Utes of Utah, Utah continues to garner respect from the nation as they are now in the top 20 in college football. Utah wins 43-10 as the Monarchs simply had absolutely no answer for Utah. And then finally, how about the Toledo Rockets? The Rocket Men are looking strong to start Big Ten Conference action, starting off by blowing out the Hoosiers 44-10. Indiana trending in the right direction, but still have a long way to go to be competitive in the Big Ten Conference. So this week absolutely saw plenty of turmoil happen throughout the NCSL. Even though Michigan won, they drop out of that number 1 spot. They were not impressed in that win against Cincinnati. USC is your new number 1 team in the nation, and they command most of the first place votes. We will have a top 5 battle next episode that will be exciting to watch, but other things that are of note in this top 25, Georgia is officially in the top 5 with a blowout of South Carolina. And then Nebraska able to win a defensive battle against Minnesota. The Cornhuskers are also undefeated on the season as well. How about Rice? Rice undefeated still. They're number 7 in the country. Then the Rainbow Warriors are up to number 8 after a shutout of Washington State. Rounding out your top 10, you got LSU up a few spots and TCU beating Texas A&M to be considered a top 10 team in the country. Ohio State scored the most points out of anybody in week number 6. They are up 3 spots to number 11. Ole Miss up 3 spots as well after beating South Alabama. Now, in the bottom half of the top 25, you got UCLA down 7 spots after a shocking upset on the road against the California Bears. Minnesota also only falls a few spots. Florida up a couple of spots. They had a scare against Tennessee, but the Florida Gators did end up surviving. Army, though, different story. The Black Knights suffered their first loss of the season. It's in that conference opener against Rutgers, so they were punished heavily for that. Wisconsin is up 3 spots. Notre Dame is holding strong. Utah up 4 spots after a blowout. Then rounding out your top 25 for the moment, you got Illinois at 20. California who is 2 games under 500. I understand it was a great win against UCLA, but how is Cal honestly ranked right now? That shocks me tremendously, but they are back in number 21, and they are on bye. Washington barely hanging on, though. They're at number 22. At Northern Illinois is in at number 23, and your last 2 teams are North Carolina and Arkansas as the number 25 team in college football. So a 2007-esque season going on here in the NCSL Dynasty. What more is going to be in store? We're reaching that halfway point in the season, so next episode, not only will you have your usual complements of games, but we will also check in on the conference standings as well as we approach that halfway point in the season. So it's going to be an absolutely electric weekend coming up. I hope you guys do enjoy this episode. If you enjoyed the NCSL content, I need you guys to go ahead and do me a massive favor. Smack that like button, and then also hit that subscribe button as well if you have to be brand new to the channel. This is John J Gaming on the mic signing off, but hoping you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.